I'm Lorraine Francis, and I'm a Green councillor in the Eastville ward of Bristol.
Christene Townsend, and I am one of the Green Party councillors for Southville ward in Bristol.
Opposite sides of the river.
Before this crisis kind of really started to kick off and show its face, there were 30,000 households, an estimated 30,000 in Bristol, that were in fuel poverty already. Food banks were going up in number. So since I've been elected in May 21, I'm aware of 2 food banks opening up in Southville, and charities were being more relied upon. I think it's about the anxiety that people can see coming down the line as much as the impact right now. I think everybody probably has realised that you go to the shops and prices have gone up. If you use a car, then the price of petrol's gone up, but it's the fuel, it's the energy prices, the gas and the electricity, and the big lead in towards the October. And I think that anxiety and that kind of anticipation about how people are going to get through just this winter is actually kind of going to hit people really hard.
The data tells us that at least 15,000 children under 16 live in low-income households, and I think I was anecdotally seeing that there was masses of queues for free uniforms recently. An increase in families needing to reach out than normal. There's a lot of shock and apathy still sort of taking place in Bristol. I think people haven't really fully got on board with what's happening at the moment, because we had the pandemic, then we had fuel prices, petrol prices rising. People have had maybe one bill so far since the fuel hikes, and I don't think it's fully registered yet that we are.
I would agree with that.
That we're in a crisis, and I don't think people have really registered about it. That's my personal opinion. The council tax reduction scheme is still in place, which is a really big positive thing for low income families. And I think we were saying just now, in some places 100% cap, and the Greens were the ones driving for this to continue. So that's something really kind of tangible that people might not necessarily even recognise is happening, but we know it's happening. The warm hubs that are being talked about, and I think that's something that's being introduced with the hope that it might have a positive impact. But again, there was something about there's going to be so many groups that can't access it, whatever it is, because it's not in place yet. If you've got anxiety and you can't leave your home, or you're disabled and you don't have any support, and if you're elderly, if you're female, how are you going to sort of manage that?
Because we're just about to have some bus routes cut for into and out from Bristol, and that includes the community transport scheme. That's not really Bristol, that's kind of the regional responsibility of the regional mayor, and that is only going to make people more isolated, and it's only going to make people less able to get out of their homes in order to access any support that might be in place where they physically have to be there because they need to be warm. People are going to die over this winter because they're not able to access any support for whatever reason. If you need care in your own home, it's going to be very difficult for you to be able to go to a community space and then receive that care. So of course, this will impact on those most disadvantaged by the kind of structures anyway. And it's going to be those people that are going to be most sort of affected and most at risk of death, because that is what we're going to see, unfortunately.
I'm a social worker in my day job, and frontline staff are being totally decimated by the workload pressures, to keep going, over the pandemic, I think that many of us worked throughout, whether you were a nurse or whether you were a social worker, you and carers, care agencies were working flat out. We haven't stopped. Staff are worn out, staff are tired, staff are worried about, being able to keep up with the workload. Their wages are not going up to meet the demand. And that, that whilst we know it's a national thing, maybe Bristol could introduce, some reduction in staff costs, somehow, give staff a proper wage rise,
I think that the Green Party have called for a £15 minimum wage across the board.
Yeah.
We believe that the minimum wage needs to be, it would be best part of just over 50% increase. Bristol does have a living wage for its kind of council employees, but whether people are going to be in a position to live on that now, I don't think so. That clearly needs to go up if families and individuals are expected to meet these energy prices, and nothing is actually done at a national level to ensure that those bills are brought down. Bristol's one of the core cities. We get told that the mayor has lots of these regional meetings and he works with lots of other local authorities. What I would really like to see are the big cities and the big authorities standing behind their workers and saying we're going to pay them a decent wage. And secondly, I'd like them to see them standing behind their public services, because hospitals' bills are going to be such that their budgets are going to fall off a cliff. Schools' energy prices are going to go through the roof. But the budget is the budget, and if you've got to spend more on energy, you can't afford to pay your staff, either pay your staff a decent wage and put it up so that they can live, or you have to cut your staff. And I would really like to see a kind of bottom-up resistance to central government being led by local governments. And I think that elected mayors and elected regional mayors are in very, very strong positions to be that voice. So I would really like to see, elected mayors, elected leaders, regional mayors coming together to stand, with their public services and with their people and saying, profits don't come first, people come first.